Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
The book.
Well, I don't think the movie is called that.
The book!
So we both read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I have this Barnes & Noble, special edition that I bought years and years ago.
I have the omnibus.
I think it's just omnibus.
Omnibus. If you notice, I do have a bookmark in it because we didn't read Through the Looking Glass yet. We're going to read that at some point, I think, but that's a separate book, so that's not this video. Obviously, the Disney movie is based on this book. Well, I guess maybe that's not obvious to everybody, but the Disney movie is based on this book. I think everybody's seen the cartoon by now. I kind of love it. I did not know Billy hates it. I made him watch it a few weeks ago with me, and he patiently sat through the whole thing and then only told me weeks later, as we were reading this, that he hates Alice in Wonderland.
Did I say hate? Well, I didn't enjoy it at all.
That's close to hate. So anyway, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have picked this, but Billy agreed to read it with me.
Well, but I've had this. I've wanted to read it.
Okay.
So.
Okay, well, so now we read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which I think we've said 5 times, but who knows what the editing will look like on this video. So, really quickly, if you've never read it, I'm assuming you've seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie and you haven't heard of the book, I don't know why you're here. But it's almost beat for beat the same as the movie for a good, half of the book. And so it really does start out, almost identical to the movie, scene for scene. But one thing that I noticed is that in the book, they talk about one of the characters is the Duchess. She's not in the cartoon movie. I think she might be in the Johnny Depp movie, but that movie is so bad. I've seen it once and I never need to see it again. So comment below, tell me if I'm right. Is there a Duchess in that weird movie?
I think there is.
I think so too.
I think so.
So yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the movie, but there are a couple of characters, small characters, and a couple of scenes that are not in the movie. I'm so excited that you finished it, actually, because one thing I wanted to bring up, I think we're just gonna get into our talk.
Yeah.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum are not in this book, and they're one of okay, they're one of my favorite parts of the movie, and also in the movie they go through The Walrus and the Carpenter, which is a Lewis Carroll poem according to what I read on Google, but that wasn't in the book either. So I'm guessing that it's in Through the Looking Glass, and I hope it is.
I believe it is. Actually, on my edition of this book, there's a little caricature of them. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember when we were watching Alice in Wonderland, I asked, wasn't Humpty Dumpty in this? And then I kind of took a quick look at Through the Looking Glass, and Humpty Dumpty's in there. So I think I think the movie. No, well, spoiler. I think the movie combined both of them into Alice in Wonderland. I think took parts.
But we don't know. We can't say for sure yet because we haven't read
it yet. That's true. For me, how much did you like it? Did you enjoy this? Because
I did. It was hard to get into in a way because I've seen the movie a bunch of times, and so it's kind of impossible to read this and not visualize the movie and not think of the dialogue from the movie because it's so similar. So it feels like this lost its identity in a way because I'm not reading it like you would normally pick up a book and read it and appreciate it for what it is. I'm reading it and thinking of the movie.
Okay.
Whereas Through the Looking Glass, there might be some parts of that made it to the movie, but most of the movie, I believe, is Alice in Wonderland. So I think that when we get to read Through the Looking Glass, I'm imagining that's going to be it will feel more like a fresh experience, and I think it will be, I'll get to really judge it for what it is instead of kind of comparing it in my head to the movie, because so much of this is the same as the movie. But I've always wanted to read this, and I just really liked this. I like when they do creative. I don't know if it's focusing. And this is the only page, by the way. I took this out of the library in the Kindle version, and then I somehow found it on Amazon. I looked for it, and I was like, oh, it's printed all cool. I guess I need a print copy. That's the only page that's like that, so you don't need the print copy. But it is also illustrated, and as an adult, I don't need pictures. But what I thought was cool is that these are, they're kind of hideous. But these are, these are the original illustrations. So when this book originally came out, I think it included the illustrations. And I wanted the full 1800s experience. This book came out Lewis Carroll was born in 1832, and he died in 1898, so it definitely didn't come out after that.
Yeah, I don't remember who drew the original illustration.
Oh, it says it. John Tenniel? John, if you're watching, I don't know if I'm mispronouncing your name. His
drawings are very creepy, and Alice is very ugly. She's an ugly little girl.
She is an ugly.
There are newer versions of the illustrations where they make her prettier.
Look at this haggard face. look at how haggard she is. You know, she's not known for her looks, but that's not why people love her.
I found that since I didn't really have much experience with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, it's very easy just to say Alice in Wonderland. I found that the same parts of the movie that I didn't like in the book. I don't like the beginning for whatever reason. I don't like the growing and shrinking of Alice. I don't like the White Rabbit scene. I really didn't start enjoying this until Alice met the Duchess and the cook and the Cheshire Cat. That's when I started liking it, and I feel like from then on is when I enjoyed the book.
Oh, the Duchess is weird. I don't like her.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. One thing that stood out to me, in the movie, Alice grows and shrinks, and it's proportionate. In the book, there's a point where it's just like, I mean, her whole body grows, but she gets like a huge ass neck. And that doesn't happen in the movie. And there's like, sometimes if you're looking on Amazon, some of the cover art is like Alice, or no, wait, yours. Yours is Alice, I think. No. I think there's a different Barnes & Noble version where she has a big neck.
There might be. This is like, I don't know if they make this one anymore. They have like another version that has way less, because this is like a lot more of Lewis Carroll's works.
And by the way, did you know that's a pen name?
I did not know that.
I forgot what his real name is. Someone can tell us in the comments.
Fun fact.
He's basically a big liar.
Okay. You should put the drink over there.
Do you think Kathy Lee tells Hoda where to put her drink? Oh, there's a weird symbol on page 104 that I wanted to talk about with you.
There is.
Well, I mean, your pages are not the same numbers as mine. See the Mad Hatter?
Dude.
So everybody at home, see? What is that? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Decoding. Like, it seems too intentional, and it doesn't look like it's supposed to be, you know, this background. It's separate. What the hell is that?
I don't know. I didn't notice that.
That's the first note I took on this book. We're new to BookTube, obviously, and we don't normally take notes while we read. Sometimes I will if we're reading a book together that we want to talk about, or if I'm reading a nonfiction book about something that I think is very important and I don't want to have to reread the book to retain the information in it. Sometimes I will take notes on my phone, which I hate, but writing kind of hurts my wrist. So I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I would prefer to take notes if we're going to do videos on books we're reading. It's just I would much rather not for the first time through something, just kind of experience it without having to take notes.
I agree.
But I think going forward with books that we're going to do this like sort of Billy and Noel book club video where we both read a book and talk about it, I think I'll probably start taking more notes. I took a little bit for this.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, did you have any notes on any quotes that you liked? Because I took a few. There were a few that made me laugh and a few that I liked a lot.
No, I didn't save any quotes, but here is something I liked. Okay, on page 114 in my book, I really liked... So this is a scene with the king and the queen who, like... I wrote down that, I mean, I guess this is obvious to people, but I didn't get it from the movie. Lewis Carroll's making fun of royalty and I guess the elite. And I really like that. So this is a bit of a quote, but I feel like you guys are used to being read to on BookTube. Why, there they are, said the king triumphantly, pointing to the tarts on the table. Nothing can be clearer than that. Then again, before she had this fit, you never had fits, my dear, I think, he said to the queen. Never, said the queen furiously, throwing an inkstand at the lizard as she spoke. The unfortunate little Bill had left off writing on his slate with one finger, as he found it made no mark, but he now hastily began again, using the ink that was trickling down his face as long as it lasted. Then the words don't fit you, said the king, looking round the court with a smile. There was a dead silence. It's a pun, the king added in an offended tone, and everybody laughed. It made me think of when you work for a dipshit and they make a stupid joke, or it's like not even obvious that it's a joke, but all the ass kissers in the office
that's
just
so
pretend
funny
to laugh. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of.
They don't laugh, they just say that.
Or
you're hilarious.
Or they do even worse. They're like, oh, we have the greatest boss. And it's like, that's what that scene made me think of.
My favorite character was the Cheshire Cat. And my favorite quote comes from the cat. When Alice is speaking with the cat and asking where she should go, which route she should take, I forget if it's like left or right, she says that she doesn't want to go among mad people. And the cat responds with, oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad. You must be, or you wouldn't have come here. So to me, that's just saying, like, everyone in this story is crazy. That's kind of what I took from it, that everyone is being made fun of. And I don't know, I didn't find anything too much deeper than that. I don't know if you're supposed to find more. I thought it was just a fun story about how everyone in the world is crazy, including Alice. I don't know if there's like symbolism with her growing at the end of like, she seems to start off dumber than she is. Like, she's dumb at the beginning and then she maybe gets things a little bit more because she says things that gets her in trouble. Like, she talks about eating the different types of animals in front of the animals.
Yeah.
And then I think
killing mice.
I think different fish when she's asked what I forget if it's a white fish or
I had to look that up because she was talking about,
I forget the fish specifically, but she holds her tongue.
Whiting.
Whiting.
I think whiting.
That's a fish.
And it's served with the tail in the mouth. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like not how it's done anymore or if I'm just not classy because I don't eat at restaurants. Speaking of not being classy, I do have shirts that are not Rolling Stones.
Did you wear that last time?
I have a different Rolling Stones shirt in the other video. I need to go shopping, guys. Tell me where you buy your clothes.
Anyways, I think that everyone... Oh, I'm sorry, go back to Alice. I don't know, Alice seems to hold her tongue a little bit as the story goes on, but I think she realizes that everyone is crazy, but she's not that smart, I guess. And I don't know if this is trying to show that she speaks weird, but or maybe it's not just her. But do you notice how like certain words, like can't, it's spelt like ant? Like C-A''N''T.
You must have
my version's different.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of times where she said can't or won't. It would be like won't. Maybe that's just different versions. But I found that I was trying to figure out because not all words like that were spelt that way.
I think in the movie and in the book, the Mad Hatter and the March Hare are probably my favorite, except the rabbit. I love the rabbit. I thought it was interesting, too. In the book, they still have the scene. There's a scene in the movie that I always thought was weird, where Alice runs into the rabbit, like, around his house, and he calls her Marianne, and he sends her inside, but he keeps addressing her as Marianne. And watching the movie, I always thought, like, where is Marianne? Obviously, that's somebody he knows, and she must be in the house. Like, she must work for him, because he ordered her to go in the house, as if she's always there. And they don't show Marianne. And I always thought that was such a weird scene in the movie. And so when I was reading the book, I was surprised that it goes almost exactly the same way in the book. I'm like, where the fuck is Marianne? Who is she?
Well,
I appreciated that Alice, at least in the book, acknowledges, like, the real Marianne might be here. Because in the movie, they're just like, there's no Marianne. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, doesn't she say something like it must be his maid or something like that? His servant?
So. Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed the Mad Hatter in the book. I didn't really like that part of the film for whatever reason. I think he's funnier in the book. And he has, he's talking about his watch that doesn't show the time.
It's 2 days slow in the movie.
Oh, it's 2 days slow in the movie, but I think it only shows either the month.
Something weird like
either
that.
Either the month or the day. And she's asking him about how does he tell time? And he says, you don't know time, but he's saying that time is a person and not, I don't know. There was some fun stuff with that.
I like their nonsense with the clean cut move down. They do that in the movie too, where...
Oh yeah, when they switch seats.
Yeah, just to get and then she asks them in the book, well, what happens when you make your way all the way around? And they act as if that's a bizarre question. I just I didn't take enough notes, and I'm sorry. We'll be more organized in future videos, but there was a character, and I actually think it was a lot of the characters throughout the book, because I think the Mad Hatter and the March Hare do this, but I know that the Griffin also, they talk to Alice like she's a dipshit.
Yes.
Like, she'll say something, or she'll ask a question, and they'll go like, well, obviously it's this. You are such an idiot. Like, they talk to her like
only
that.
A simpleton wouldn't know.
Yeah, they call her a simpleton, I think.
Yeah. The Griffin and the
mock turtle.
The mock turtle. Their stories are so weird. That was a little weird.
That was weird.
They made her like they made her retell the story that she had the wrong words coming out.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, and then they start singing to her. It was very odd, and they just kept like making fun of her the whole time.
They do that in the movie, and it makes me wonder. I mean, so in the movie, if you've seen the movie or read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But those scenes where they're like, recite the busy bee or whatever the hell. And it makes me wonder if that was like, they were asking her to complete a nursery rhyme that was real, except then she spews out a Lewis Carroll poem. But it makes me wonder, years ago, was that normal? Were children taught to memorize like poems or stories and then recite them on command? Because that's the impression that it gave me, because this is from the 1800s, and they keep referencing her lessons. That's the whole beginning and the end is her sister's giving her lessons and she falls asleep. So I just wonder, like, back when education was, you maybe made it until you were 12 and then you could go get married. It was totally different. Were kids taught to recite stuff? You know, maybe that's what that was.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
That also reminded me, the lessons part was also something I liked a lot. When I think it's the mock turtle is talking about the lessons, or maybe the griffin. They're talking about how they're shorter every day because they lesson.
Oh, I love that scene. They keep
'cause,
going through words and explaining what they really mean.
Yeah, and I think, and Alice says something like, oh, on the 11th day must be a holiday then, right? And they're like, of course, you simpleton.
Yeah. So I thought it was an enjoyable book, but if you don't like the movie, I don't like the movie. Tell everybody. If you don't like the movie, should you read the book?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. I think it's just a fun, silly kind of thing to read.
Yeah, you're
right?
not going to get shit out of it.
No, but you have to just enjoy a weird, whimsical story that doesn't really have any, like...
Point.
Yeah, it's just odd. But maybe there's more to it once we get through the Looking Glass.
Ooh, nice segue.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so... I know that there are, at least I've seen on the internet, there are other retellings of Alice in Wonderland. Would that be something that you would be interested in checking out at all?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't like, that sounds like fan fiction to me.
Well, it's probably because I'm guessing it's in the public domain, Alice in Wonderland, because I've seen that there's lots of books with, here's Alice as she's older, or this is like a darker version of this.
Years ago, there was a series called Splintered that I believe was fan fiction that was either using the Alice in Wonderland like world and the Alice character, or it was inspired by it. And I was like, I don't know, like 20, I think, when I tried to read that, and I was like, this is too stupid for me. I'm not really into, I'm very weird about the things I like. I won't normally read a kid's book. I think that's weird. I'm 31. But like, I grew up watching the movie, and I just think, like, I'll make an exception for like Alice in Wonderland and like The Wizard of Oz, because I think that they're kind of like originals. And the old-fashioned fairy tales that are not always happy, I like that stuff. But I don't want to read some hipster's retelling of a Lewis Carroll book. I don't.
Yeah. What made me think of that is I had started I was listening to Neil Gaiman audiobooks a few years back, and I really, really enjoyed The Graveyard Book, which is kind of a children's book, but read by Neil Gaiman. It was fantastic. So I grabbed a couple more, and one was Neverwhere, which I believe is kind of inspired by Alice in Wonderland. I actually stopped listening to it because I want to read this at some point. I only listened to like 2 or 3 chapters, but it's about a guy, this is a few years back, I don't remember specifics, but a guy in London, I believe, he finds some weird underground world under the city, and I think it's about his like experiences with this weird kind of like strange underground wondrous land, like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So that is definitely something that's kind of back on my list to check out. My what is it, TBR? I don't know if I'm going to be using those phrases, but it's on my extended to be read list.
I will say, I'm not a big fantasy reader. I'm not really a fantasy reader at all. But Billy had on the Neil Gaiman audiobook at one point a few years ago, and first of all, his voice is very captivating. He's a good narrator.
It's great.
And the writing wasn't bad. Like, he's a good writer and a good speaker. So I would maybe check out some of his books. I haven't yet. I tried to take out the audiobook of Coraline from the library, and someone else had it, so
I believe I have that.
There went that.
Kindle.
But yeah,
I've heard that's really good.
I'm not really big on fantasy, and the thing is, there's a lot of books that I know I want to read for sure, and I'm making my way through them. So those are more important to me than reading fantasy. But maybe one day I'll try Neil Gaiman. Maybe I'll try those Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, because people really love those. But I'm definitely not going to commit to a series. Like, I would try the first book and judge it for what it is. Like, I saw someone online saying, like, oh, you can't, if you don't like the first 3 books of this series, that doesn't mean you won't like it. Bitch, I am not reading 3 books that I don't like and then continuing with the series. You're out of your mind. There's so much stuff out there to read.
I know.
So,
there's a lot of fantasy series like that. I think I want to get into the Wheel of Time at some point. I believe that's Robert Jordan, and then finished by Brandon Sanderson. But I've seen that people say that, oh, it doesn't get really good until like book 5.
That means you're a shit author.
I don't want to I'm going to try it. I own the first 3 books. I want to try them. But if I don't like the first 3, I don't think I'm going to continue with them.
No, why would anyone do that?
Yeah.
Like, what did that author ever do for you?
But, maybe this is just people being a little bit, pretentious. And I mean, a book should really capture you in the first couple sentences, There's a series that I had started called the Dresden Files, and that's the novel about the private detective. That's fantasy, and people say that the first couple books, they were the first books that the author wrote. I'm blanking on his name right now.
He doesn't know yours. It's fine.
But people say that his writing is way better with like book 4 on. But I loved the first book, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna read them all, and it's exciting to know that when I get to book 4 or 5, it's gonna be much grander and of a story and better writing. So yeah, but you need to be hooked at first. So. Anything else you want to say about?
I think we should give it a rating.
Okay. Should we do, what is our scale? Is it a 5-star with halves?
I already gave it ratings on my apps, and I don't remember what I rated it. Should I tell the audience? Here's what we'll do. We'll rate it cold, and then we'll tell the audience what we rated it in our apps.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't rate them yet. Oh. I'm going to give Alice's Adventures in Wonderland a 3.5 out of 5.
I think that's what I gave it.
Yeah. I expected, especially with the first few chapters, to be like a 1 or a 2, honestly, because I didn't like the movie. But it picks up. I enjoyed it. I laughed a few times, which I heard her giggling while she was reading it. I'm like, it can't be that funny. And I giggled.
Yeah, he looked over at me like I was crazy, and I was just like...
It can't be that funny. But yeah, I giggled too at some of the things. So yeah, I'd say it's solid. It's definitely worth checking out. It's very short too. My version was 120 pages.
Well, they're all short.
Yeah, well, I know.
You know, it's weird. Mine was 120 pages, and
so I don't know why
paper's a lot bigger than mine.
Yeah, so I don't know why some of them, like, the pages are off.
It's a fast read. I did think I was going to read it in a day, and I didn't, so I don't know why I thought that. I mean, maybe not a day, but it took me... Because when I read this, I think that I was, like, really busy with work, and I think I went a couple days without reading at all while I was reading this. But normally we try to read every night. Yeah,
I have another novel that I've wanted to finish, and I'm very close with, like, 4 chapters left, so I've been trying to get through that. So I read, like, 50 pages of this in one sitting. I waited about a week, and then in 2 or 3 more sittings of, like, a half hour to an hour each, I'm done, so...
I remember, I think last weekend, I read like 60 pages in one day, and then I just got to a point where it was like, I don't know, tell me if you relate to this, but you know, when you're reading for like a couple hours, and I get to a point where I'm like, I need to be doing something else, like either not reading or reading a different book. Like I just get tired. I can't read a book cover to cover. I did it once or twice as a child.
Yeah, it depends for me. Sometimes you really want to know what happens, and like the story has really great hooks. This is not that for me. This is like I get through a chapter or 2, it was fun, and I can take a break.
Here's what we need to say too. I think that's important that people will probably agree with. This book doesn't necessarily have a plot.
Right.
There's no, like, you know, the traditional plot that you're taught in school of, like, introduction, I think they call it exposition, you know, rising action, climax, resolution, all that. That's not really in this. No. It's more mini tales. It's like Alice having mini tales, you know, with different characters as she makes her way throughout the world that she's in.
Yeah, it actually reminded me because another movie you made me watch recently, which that came out bad. It was okay. The Wizard of Oz.
Everybody needs to know that movie. It's inspired a lot of art.
Okay, but to me that was like, here is a set piece and a set piece. Like, here's something that's experienced, here's another thing. Well, like, you meet a new character, here's a little thing. Here's a new character, here's a little thing. And that's exactly what Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was to me. Alice's
Adventures in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz are like almost identical. if you kind of think of it. And I like only realized that, I don't know, like a year or two ago, and I remember I looked it up online and a ton of people have already talked about that, how it's very similar, like, formula to both stories, and in the end of both of them, they were just dreaming, you know?
Right. And you read or you listened to some of those? Because I didn't like the movie because it's a musical.
I listened to the first Wizard of Oz book at night. I started listening to audiobooks in bed because otherwise I don't fall asleep. And it's a 4-hour audiobook that took me through all of January. Because I think the narrator was just, she had such a relaxing voice. I fell asleep a lot. But then I tried to listen to the next, because The Wizard of Oz, if you don't know, it's a huge series. And I wanted to get into the books because I wanted to know what happens outside of the movie. So my plan originally was, I'm going to read the first book. I was originally going to read all of them, and then I decided I'll do the audiobook. So I made it through the first one, and then I took out the second one from the library, and because it's a children's book, I guess, the narrator was speaking like she's talking to a group of toddlers, and that is not for me. So I was like, no more Wizard of Oz. I also don't think the writing's very good. So, I mean, you know, my opinion doesn't matter. L. Frank Baum is dead, and he made his fortune, so don't come after me. But I think I wouldn't have published him. I think he's one of those writers that, I can't remember who I said this about recently, but I know I said it about somebody. He's not a good writer, but he's a good storyteller.
Yeah.
I don't remember who I said that about.
You said that about someone.
I say it about a lot of people.
Well, anyway, to bring this back around to Alice and Lewis Carroll. Let us know what you think. If you've most likely read this already, let us know what you think about it in general. And if you want to, I don't know, tell us, well, you won't be interested in any other story that's inspired, but I might be, so leave a comment. Billy. Yeah, let me know.
And thank you for watching.
Thanks for stopping by.
Oh. Cut!